The use of pandemic diseases in times of war has been an age-old tactic employed by armies and kingdoms. Now, one of the first ever recorded uses of biological warfare occurred in 1347, when Mongol forces are reported to have thrown plague-infested bodies over the walls into the Black Sea. This happened in the port city of Kaffa. Kaffa at that time was a Genoese trade center in the Crimean Peninsula, which is today in modern-day Russia. Now, some historians believe that ships from this besieged city returned to Italy with the plague. And this started what was called the Black Death pandemic that swept all across Europe for the next 4 years. It's estimated to have killed about 25 million people. That's about a third of the population of Europe at that time. Now comes a new report which claims that Russia had looked at the possibility of using monkeypox as a biological weapon in the early 1990s. This was right at the end of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union had just collapsed. On Crux DeCode, how real is this report? How real is this possibility that the Soviet Union was using monkeypox as a biological weapon? Can modern-day nation-states be expected to use bioweapons? And if they do, and if there is proof of them using it, can they be prosecuted for it? The most recent instance of mass disease being used as some kind of bioweapon is the speculation around the coronavirus. Now, there were multiple whistleblowers from Wuhan in China who had reportedly warned of experiments that were being conducted in a laboratory in that city. There was speculation that the chief scientist at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, Shi Wenli, was involved in research trying to sequence viral genomes from bats. Her team was supposed to have collected about 20,000 samples of genome sequences from bats over the last 20 years. There was speculation at the time of the beginning of the coronavirus that one of the genome sequences that was extracted from bats managed to escape, and that is how the world got ravaged by the coronavirus. As of date, more than 6 million people have died because of COVID-19. Back to the Russia story. At a time when the world is beginning to see an outbreak of monkeypox, primarily from Central and West African countries, now comes this story that Russia had looked into the possibility of using monkeypox as a biological weapon until at least the early 1990s. Now, this has been revealed by one of the subject matter experts. Former Soviet Union bioweapons expert Colonel Kanat Alibekov, otherwise known as Kanat Alibek, claimed in a recent discovery that there were interviews which led him to believe the country had a program to work out what viruses could be weaponized. Now, the USSR, of course, collapsed in 1991, and Dr. Alibek went on to do other things. Monkeypox is a rare viral infection which can be caught from infected wild animals. It primarily originates in West and Central Africa, and now it is spread between humans both via a droplet respiration or through an infected person's bodily fluids. It comes as the British Health Secretary Sajid Javid recently revealed that there are now 20 cases currently of monkeypox in the United Kingdom. Across Europe and the United States, over 100 cases have been confirmed. Other countries which have confirmed cases of monkeypox include Canada, Australia, Israel, Spain, Portugal, France, and Germany, among others. Dr. Alibek says, and I quote, "So we developed a special program to determine what model viruses could be used instead of smallpox. We tested vaccinia virus, mousepox virus, rabbitpox, and monkeypox virus as models for smallpox. The idea was that all research and development work would be conducted using these model viruses. Once we obtained a set of positive results, it would take just 2 weeks to conduct the same manipulation with smallpox virus and to stockpile the warfare agent. we would have in our arsenal a genetically altered smallpox virus that could replace the previous one, unquote. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense decided to continue working with the monkeypox to create what he calls future biological weapons after the collapse of the USSR. He was previously brought before a United States congressional hearing where Dr. Alibekov said that he is convinced that Russia's biological weapons program had never been completely dismantled. Now, if you remember, back in March, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs had posted a tweet accusing the United States and Ukraine of running a secret military biological program. Moscow at that time had claimed that its invading forces had discovered evidence of an emergency cleanup operation. Moscow also went on to claim that it had found documents related to secret US operations inside laboratories in Kharkiv and in Poltava. The allegations were quickly amplified by China, which supported the claims during the UN Security Council debate. Now, the theory itself took a life of its own on social media under the hashtag #USBioLabs. And of course, this was welcomed among right-wing commentators and right-wing outlets in the United States. In fact, the US funding to these laboratories had its roots in the fall of the Soviet Union. Now, after 1991, the United States pumped in huge amounts of money into Ukraine, as well as other former Soviet countries, to help them transfer scientific skills away from weapons towards public health. Now, the scheme was originally known as Cooperative Threat Reduction, or CTR, but is now more commonly referred to as biological engagement. It has been successful in helping former Soviet countries, as well as other countries in Eastern Europe, fulfill their public health obligations. Now, most of the work that has happened in Ukrainian laboratories today involves surveillance of diseases in animals, as well as in human beings, as an early warning system for illnesses like African swine fever and other pandemics which could be commonly seen in this region. Now, the assessment of the United States State Department is that Russia continues to maintain an offensive biological weapons program. The US claims this is in violation of multiple conventions and treaties that Russia has signed in the past. In fact, the United States even often points to the poisoning or the alleged poisoning of the opposition leader Alexei Navalny and Russia's support of the Syrian regime, where it was accused of deploying chemical weapons. Now, the question then that arises is, if there is evidence, and admittedly it's very difficult to find states or state agencies actively using chemical or biological weapons, if there is evidence, how easy or difficult is it to prosecute them? There are very few known instances of heads of government or heads of state being criminally prosecuted for use of chemical or biological weapons. And that is because the Rome Convention, which governs and which basically forbids nation-states from using chemical weapons or biological weapons, does not explicitly have prosecution powers of those government officials, particularly at the highest level, in case those states are found using chemical or biological weapons. Which is why, despite known evidence of regimes in Iraq, Libya, most recently in Syria, of having used chemical weapons against their own population, very, very few instances, in fact almost next to none, there have been instances of people being prosecuted for the use of these chemical weapons.